Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. Those words carry as much great weight today as they did 75 years ago when President Roosevelt addressed the nation. Welcome back to This Is Why We Stand, everyone. Joe Archino back here. And obviously today marks the 75th anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor, one of the just most traumatizing days in American history. But in that adversity and in that uncertainty, I think we really see the vision and the full awakening of what the United States of America is and always has been. And I think the three key words that were awoken that day were strength, unity, and duty. How you respond to adversity and uncertainty, it says everything about how you are. And I think certainly the way that the United States responded after the attack on Pearl Harbor, it said everything about who we are and what we stand for. And I think obviously the historical implications of the attack on Pearl Harbor are just amazing because it really was the gateway for us to get into World War II. And obviously the United States did not want to get, the public largely did not want to get involved in another one of Europe's wars. I mean, and you still have to remember that in World War I, the carnage that was witnessed was something on an epic scale the world had never seen before. And then the United States, the citizens, did not want to send our soldiers over to get involved in another one of Europe's messes. But I think President Roosevelt understood so well that this was a war that kind of went beyond the normalcy of wars. This truly was a war against the very foundation of evil, and you have to understand that he was well aware of everything that was going on with what the Nazis were doing over in Europe, that it wasn't just military. They were really doing just genocidal, horrific things, and they had to be stopped. And I think it's so hard to kind of look at Pearl Harbor and take any positives out of it because it was one of the worst days in American history and always will be, but it is the gateway that allowed America to get into World War II. And one of the things that I think you always have to keep in consideration is England, who has always been one of our top allies and always will be, was in bad shape at that point. I mean, England was, I don't know how much longer they would have been able to hold on against the Nazi onslaught. I mean, you have to remember, during this time, there was Nazi bombers flying nightly and daily bombing raids over England, and England was not in great shape. I mean, I don't think that Germany would have ever been able to invade the Britain homeland just because of how well geographically they were positioned and how they just refused to ever give up because of their leadership under Winston Churchill. But they might not have been able to hold out much longer. And this is really the event that catapulted the United States into the event. But it's like I said, how you respond to adversity and uncertainty says everything about who you are. And the way that our country united, we all felt such a sense of duty. We renewed our strength, and the unity that we were all brought together with through that war was something incredible. And I think what we were able to overcome together with our strength, with our duty, with our honor, it's something truly incredible. But we were a country bound by honor during that time, and we defended ourselves, and we did everything that we could. But I also think in today, there are certainly parallels because, like we always say in history, it always does truly repeat itself. And I think obviously the two worst attacks on American soil are very well known to all of us. It's the attack on Pearl Harbor, and then there are shades and so much similarities between that and the attack on the World Trade Center on 9/11. But it kind of always goes back to that old adage that Ronald Reagan stressed, and that's always strength through peace. And one of his quotes that I always carry with me, and I think it holds such a profound meaning, is America has never gotten into a war because we were too strong. And it absolutely is true. We have been involved in many conflicts throughout our history, but it's never been because we were too strong. Certainly, I think whenever someone in the world who's up to trouble senses weakness, they see opportunity in that weakness. And we have never been weak, but we have always been involved in these conflicts because we are the most powerful nation out there. And Ronald Reagan always talked about a responsibility that we had as this great force in the world to be the protector and to be on the move and to extinguish evil wherever we can. And I think more than anything, as we move forward in an uncertain world surrounded with terrorism and advancing terrorism, we need to always remember that line, peace through strength. It certainly is something we will always need to keep in mind, but obviously this day is all about Pearl Harbor, the 75th anniversary of the event. And this series, This Is Why We Stand, is all about the military, the service members who have built our country, and the reason we stand for that flag is because of the people who have built this country for us and the selflessness that they have showed for us. And I think today things are so heated politically, economically, socially, that sometimes we lose sight of events that truly defined who we are. And I think, like I said before, the way we came together as a country after an event like that, even after 9/11, you go back to it, it's sad that it takes awful tragedies like that to truly unite us. But those two instances right there certainly were moments where we were more unified than many other times that I can ever think of. But it shouldn't always be like that. But I think more than anything, it does show tremendous strength, and strength that is unique to us. I don't know if anywhere else in the world where an event like that would have happened and you so quickly would have had a mobilization of the masses to go out there and to defend what is right. And more than anything, in that war and all wars to follow, we were always in the right. And I mean, look, there's always going to be people who argue about us getting involved in certain conflicts, but to me, our interests in conflicts have always been inherently good. And I think Vietnam is certainly one where people will always argue that to the end of the day about why we should never have been involved in that war. But I will always argue that why shouldn't a country have an opportunity to pursue their freedom? Why should a country be forced to live under a lifestyle that they don't have no desire to live under? The Vietnam War was about trying to secure a democracy for our nation that did not want anything to do with communism. We tried our very best. A lot of mistakes were made. But to say that we should have never been involved in the Vietnam War and to give someone a chance to shape their own destiny, I just think that's the wrong way of thinking. And I think more than anything, throughout our history, we've so many things to be proud of because we truly have been the world protectors and have done everything we could to shape the destiny of the world for the better. But I think to ever shy away from what you know is right is wrong. You should never shy away from a fight because you don't want to get your hands dirty. The world is often built by the people who are willing to sacrifice and understand the big picture, and our veterans throughout our history are certainly people who understood that so very well. But obviously, I don't want to get too sidetracked because this day is all about Pearl Harbor, the sacrifices that were made that day, and just the way that it shaped our history forever. And it certainly did. I mean, if you open up a textbook, certainly you'll find a lot about Pearl Harbor, the event, everything that happened. And certainly there's been a lot of series on the History Channel leading up to this day about information that probably would have been known. And look, I've analyzed a lot of the information, and I think to say that we knew that the attack was imminent is probably wrong. I think our intelligence certainly had an idea that an attack was coming. I don't think there's any debate about that, but we had so much great information which did tell us and we should have been much better prepared for Pearl Harbor than we were. We should have known much better and been more prepared, but we had all this information, but I don't think the operation of command, the chain of command, that the information was being well distributed very well. And I think obviously there's a lot of blame put on certain people based on that day. But I think more than anything, I don't look on that day based on the mistakes that were made, based on putting all the fault on anyone. I think it was a tragic day, one of the most tragic days in American history. But the resolve that our country showed, the unity that we gained from that day, is something to be proud of forever, because we truly came together as a country. We mobilized as a masses, and we fulfilled everything that we stand for as a country, and that is the starting point of World War II for us, and then we saw things through to the end. But today's a day where you keep in mind the heroes of our nation, not just the people who fell on Pearl Harbor and were killed in that attack. Everyone who participated in World War II, from the medic to the soldier on the ground to the administrative people, anyone who had a hand in that conflict deserves your thought today, because that truly was an event that shaped all future events, and it could have gone many different ways, but we saw things through to the end, and we found ultimate victory. But I want to thank everyone for listening to this series. This is Why We Stand. Joe Archino here, and I'll be back very soon.